Okay, I'm going to just flip to the Essentials Classic workspace, and then we're just going to use the Type tool. So there are really two modalities for using the Type tool, and those are established by how you interact with the page. So the first modality is called Point Type. So when you select the Type tool and you click down, it automatically puts in these words lorem ipsum. This is Latin text, also referred to as Greek text. It's really just placeholder text that designers can use so that they can start to design posters or magazines even before the editorial team has written the copy. So it allows you to set up what font you're going to be using, what size, leading values, and so on and so forth. So I'm just going to write in what it is. This is Point Type. Now, there's really no difference here other than the way that you can interact with that type once you've created it. It just creates one long line of type, is just one long line of type. And when you go to your selection tool, you'll notice the bounding box around the type. And when you hover over this little handle, you see a little arrow that points to a letter T, just like that. That's indicating that if I double-clicked on that little handle, it would convert this point type into area type. So we can convert one to the other. Now watch what happens when you scale up the point type. Now keep in mind I'm holding down the Shift key right now. You would never distort type. That's a big no-no. You're destroying all of the design principles that have been incorporated into the font by the type designer if you do that. So word of caution, always scale things up, type in particular, using the Shift key. Of course, what it's doing is just scaling that type up and down. Let's just get rid of that. The next sort of interaction you can have is by dragging. And when I drag, what I'm doing is I'm creating a text container. And automatically, it fills it with the lorem ipsum, or Greek text. And you can see that it's set inside these black slugs with this white space in between. That white space in between there is what we refer to as leading. And leading is usually measured from the baseline of one line of type to the baseline of the next line of type. So leading is really synonymous with a term called interline spacing. Now, you'll notice if I use the selection tool that the handle here is filled in, meaning it's a container that's filled with text. But if I hover over here, you'll notice that the icon shows you that if I double-clicked on this, it would convert it to point type. So one can be converted back to the other and vice versa. Now watch what happens when I scale this thing up. The type stays exactly the same size. So area type retains its size parameters. Watch what happens if I make this container smaller. When we make it smaller, it's indicating, now you can't see the vertical here, but that's a plus sign in a red box. That's what we call the overflow indicator. And that's telling us that there's a greater volume of text than this box can currently accommodate. So there's text that's hidden. You can do one of two things to sort that out. You either make the container larger, or if you click on that box, it gives you this. It's a loaded text icon, meaning I could drag out another box, click on that as well, create a third box, and continue that process until I've laid out all of the type. Once that final box is empty, that's indicating that all of the type that was there has been accounted for and is now visible. At any point in time, I can delete a box, in which case it's shifted over to the next one down the chain. You'll notice these links here are indicating the flow of the text. So, in other words, this box flows to this box flows to this box. I'm going to pick that up, and this box flows into this box. Now, if I make something smaller, like this box, that second line flows into this second box. That pushes some of this text down here over to here, and this pushes some of this text over to here. So there's a free flow of the text between these containers. It's almost as if the text is like a liquid, and that these things are like hamster cages connected by tubes, and the water's flowing back and forth between them. Or if you think of these like flexible plastic bags that you could squeeze and make smaller, that would squeeze the fluid out. So I'm squeezing it down, and it's pushing those last three lines down into here. Whatever was spilled over from here goes into here, and so on. We could delete a middle one. And all it does is cause a reflow. None of the text is lost. And eventually, if I delete all of them, we're right back to a single text box. Now, remember I said you can convert one to the other. So I'm going to double click this, and that's converted it now into point type. So if I scale it, I'm actually scaling the type. Let's convert it back the way. Double click. Now it's converted back to regular area type. Notice when I scale it down, the type did not scale down. Or likewise, if I scale it up, it's just scaling the container box. So that's converting between point type and area type.